It began like any other off day in a season that already felt bigger than the sport until the air shifted. The cameras went still, conversations died out, and a hush ran through the faces of people trained to recognize history in real time. Michael Jordan stepped through the door with the gravity of a moon landing. Even the walls leaned in to listen. Beside him walked Lexie Hull, chin high, eyes steady, carrying a secret capable of setting an entire league on fire. Across the room, Caitlin Clark turned toward them, unaware she was 3 heartbeats away from a deal that would rewrite the rules of women's sports. What followed looked like an announcement. It sounded like business, but it was a coronation. Jordan didn't need to say much. Greatness doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. Lexie's smile gave the ending away before the story even started. Her presence was a bridge between history and the future. Then came the words. A Nike offer that tore the ceiling off its bolts. $152 million, 8 years. A signature shoe line crafted for the way she moves. The room didn't erupt, it held its breath. Cameras clicked, but for a moment, the lens froze. On Clark's face, where disbelief turned into gratitude, and gratitude hardened into resolve. The moment landed like sunlight through stained glass. People exhaled, the sound rising and falling like waves crashing into cliffs. And then the shoebox appeared, matte black, initials embossed like a seal from another kingdom. Not rumor, reality. Fingers trembled, lids lifted. The future stared. Back in stitched leather and curves made for the fastest release in college basketball history. The shock didn't roar. It hummed a low, unshakable tone of a beginning that knew it would be remembered. No one needed to explain what it meant. The math lived in every widened eye. This was destiny not knocking, but kicking the door in. Nike wasn't just making an investment. It was making a statement. And sometimes, statements move markets faster than numbers can keep up. Jordan's presence turned the pen into a sword. Lexie's nod made it clear this wasn't a cameo. This was a coalition. When Clark reached the shoe, the room felt the baton pass, and everything changed. The story was no longer about potential, it was about inevitability. The most scrutinized rookie in America didn't just wear a brand. She was the brand carrying it, like she carries a double team. This wasn't an accessory to her career. It was infrastructure: steel, glass, electricity for a skyline no one imagined until that moment. People who'd never watched women's basketball began to ask questions, and questions are the first currency of a cultural wave. Caitlin didn't just sign a deal. She inherited a mandate: shift the temperature of an entire sport. Long before the world heard the number on the contract, they knew the number on the scoreboard. She climbed the NCAA scoring mountain, shattering records until her name became the benchmark. Her season at Iowa wasn't just dominant, it wasn't. Era condensed into a single calendar year. Arenas turned into pilgrimage sites. Fans arrived 2 hours early just to catch warm-ups. Every deep three felt like a postcard from the future, stamped, signed, and mailed to anyone still clinging to the past. Her popularity didn't grow, it detonated, sending shockwaves through networks, ticket sales, and social media alike. Commentators ran out of superlatives. Then they made up new ones, because the old dictionary couldn't describe the new physics. Coaches adjusted scouting reports. Kids mimicked her stepbacks and driveways under porch lights. She didn't just change how opponents prepared, she changed how they dreamed. When she shattered the all-time NCAA scoring record in March 2024, applause wasn't enough. The moment simply expanded beyond sound. ESPN tried to frame her rise, but the frame couldn't contain the portrait. Her highlights didn't trend, they dominated, colonizing timelines and commanding attention from even the most casual of fans. Gravity can't be faked, and every month, Clark's game pulled more of it in. By the end, no one asked, is she ready for the pros? They asked, are the pros ready for her? Draft night didn't feel like a selection, it felt like a coronation with better lighting. When the Indiana Fever called her name, the arena detonated like a stadium-sized champagne bottle. Flashes popped. Legends nodded. Somewhere, an algorithm smiled, because it knew what everyone else now realized. The story wasn't beginning, it was accelerating, and the future had already arrived. She'd been ruling attention since her sophomore year. If the draft was a doorway, Caitlin Clark didn't just walk through it, she expanded the hallway until everyone else looked like they were standing still. But the glitter of that night was only the prelude. A negotiation storm was brewing on the corporate horizon. Executives flew in on quiet private jets, pretending to be casual in hallways where casual cost thousands. The whispers weren't subtle. Whoever landed Caitlin wasn't just buying endorsements, they were buying real estate on culture's main street. Brands didn't court her, they fought for survival in a market she now owned. The math was obvious. If she could break the ratings ceiling, she could break every other ceiling with the same follow-through. Under Armour made the first move steady, aggressive, sliding a $16 million offer across the metaphorical table. It came with more than just money, a signature shoe, a rarity in women's hoops, the kind of thing that would have led headlines in any other year. Adidas followed with a quieter pitch, $6 million and a prototype tuned to her tempo, banking on intimacy and innovation over pure muscle. Puma flirted, then flinched. The stakes kept rising like a tide too fast to outrun. It all felt big, but it didn't feel final. This was a negotiation disguised as a prize fight, fought with PDFs, phone calls, and quiet leverage. Every brand imagined her logo beside theirs and saw growth curves bending like they'd hit gravity. The equation was simple but ruthless. Whoever signed Caitlyn wouldn't just win now, they'd reshape the next 10 years. Meetings stretched. Past midnight, calmness was a performance. A monologue rehearsed to cover nerves no one could afford to admit. Then the room shifted again. One heavyweight stepped in, wearing legacy-like armor. Nike didn't knock. Nike thundered. 3 days after her name echoed through draft night, the swoosh made its move-on offer that pulled the air out of the room. 8 years, $28 million guaranteed. Escalators in the contract like glass elevators climbing toward a $52 million skyline. The numbers didn't just win. They signaled like lightning announcing a storm. And then came the piece that doesn't just create icons, it creates dynasties, a signature shoe. Built around the things only Caitlyn does, the things no one has. Found a way to stop, but numbers alone can't carry that kind of weight. So Nike brought the faces that could. They walked in like gravity had chosen a side. Michael Jordan didn't need an introduction, legends rarely do. Lexie Hull didn't need permission. Momentum was already moving in her name. Together, they didn't pitch a contract. They offered a coalition. Caitlyn thought she was attending another brand meeting. Those fluorescent light sessions with bottled water and safe smiles. Instead, the world tilted. Jordan offered history. Hull offered the future. Somewhere in that moment she found her present. A black box appeared, ceremonial and heavy. It carried the kind of weight that makes cameras shake and hands tremble. Inside was a prototype. It didn't feel like fabric or rubber. It felt like a new chapter turning itself. The tears came not from weakness, but because sometimes reality outgrows language, and emotion is the only currency left to spend. What happened in that room was rarer than records. It was the exact moment a torch changes hands. The shoe wasn't just a product. It was a sentence written in leather, a story crafted for what comes next. Every stitch was intentional. Every curve echoed a move Caitlyn makes at full speed, with the world trying to catch up. Jordan didn't say much. He didn't need to. Founders don't speak when the proof is already glowing in the palm of someone else's hand. He just nodded like a man who knows he's standing. Inside history. The future will call it a turning point. Caitlyn lifted the shoe like a musician lifts. Their first gold record, careful, certain, and already knowing the next one is coming. She smiled, and like a highlight, the smile replayed across the room until everyone understood. The game had changed. Again. She wore a version of it. The applause came quickly but gently, as if the room didn't want to startle a miracle. This wasn't just about accepting a gift. It was accepting the weight that comes with carrying a generation's hope into retail stores and onto hardwood courts. History has a heartbeat, and in that moment, everyone heard it steady and loud in the reflection off the polished plastic dot in the surface. She didn't just see her own face. She saw every driveway jumper, every late-night film session, every defender she'd learned to beat by creating daylight where none existed. She saw kids who would no longer hear, "There's no shoe for you," and believe it. She saw the runway, stretching past this season, beyond the next cycle, into a future where old limits no longer applied, and she understood what it meant. The price of a dream is accountability to those who borrow courage from it. If the deal felt unprecedented, it was only because precedent had never been asked to move at this speed. She wasn't just signing for herself, she was signing for the next wave, one that would arrive even larger because she'd raised the waterline. What began as a prototype had turned into a prophecy, and prophecies don't ask for promises, they ask for performance. The headlines screamed numbers, but underneath, the subtext had stronger legs. Nike wasn't placing a bet on a single moment. They were investing in a movement that had already taken off. Comparisons came quickly because every road in this conversation eventually turns toward 1984. Jordan's first Nike deal introduced royalties and equity, transforming sneakers into stock and athletes into brands. That model proved applause fades, but ownership endures. It changed what a clause in a contract could mean, not just compensation, but legacy. Everyone looked for the mirror. Everyone waited to see if Caitlyn's reflection matched history then. Sonny Vaccaro spoke, the man who helped make Jordan a brand, the godfather of sneaker deals. He praised Caitlyn with the pride of an architect admiring a rising tower, but he didn't hold back. No royalties, he pointed out. No true equity clause. Not yet. His words landed like a clean block at the rim. If anyone deserves a stake in her legacy, it's her. Because she's not just moving unit, she's moving an era. The critique didn't shrink the moment. It sharpened it. Debate flared up the way important arguments do, fast, loud, and unexpectedly productive. Was this the ceiling shattered, or just a window opened wide enough to ask for more air next time? People who had never read a contract suddenly had opinions on term sheets and revenue splits. Athletes who had grown up admiring her boldness now had a new assignment. Ask the question, then ask again. Progress rarely arrives perfect. It shows up possible, then improves under pressure. Caitlyn didn't flinch. The biggest players learn how to manage the spotlight and the microscope at the same time. The absence of royalties didn't erase the presence of everything else. The platform, the leverage, the prototype that now felt like a promissory note for whoever comes next. If this was the floor, the next deals would build bigger rooms and wider doors. You don't knock down a wall without letting sunlight through for those who follow. She understood the assignment, and she'll negotiate better next time. The conversation hit a nerve. The contrast was impossible to ignore. The $52 million endorsement deal made headlines like fireworks, making night feel like noon. But the rookie salary of $17,600 sparked a quieter outrage, the kind that lingers. How can the brightest star in the league make more in one contract than many players earn in 10 years? The question wasn't performative outrage. It was a ledger finally being read out loud, and everyone was paying attention. Fans did what fans always do. When they sensed the tide turning, they spoke up. Loudly, together, players did what they had to demand, a blueprint that reflects the scale of the moment. Articles poured in overnight, linking ratings, ticket sales, broadcast rights, and all the money that trickles where it should flow. Even politicians noticed. They could smell momentum the way sharks smell current, and through it all, Caitlin Clark played because she's the best.